What's up, y'all? It's Drewski, and I've teamed up with Mountain Dew to produce a hilarious new basketball podcast called The Dew Zone with Drewski. Learn the backstories of your favorite ballers and celebrities like Jamal Murray.
Did you have like a favorite team? Was it the Raptors at the time or no? Was the Raptors even started around that time?
Come on, bro.
I ain't that old, fam. You talking like I'm 50.
Taylor Rooks, Asia Wilson, and many more. You won't want to miss this. Listen to The Dew Zone with Drewski on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome to the Timeline Podcast. I am in a great mood. My name is Mike Vigil. Samurai Poppy and Devin Booker took down the New Orleans Pelicans last night. Sam Cooper, how are you doing?
I'm in a great mood. Mike, the Suns did not deserve to win that game, but hey, we're 6-4 in our last 10, and Josh Jackson made both of us look like complete idiots, so we can talk about that right off the bat.
I'm so happy he did. It's great. It's really great to be wrong. I mean, I don't know if we're overall wrong about the trajectory of his career, but it's nice that he comes out and kind of proves us wrong in that directly after we kind of buried him on our last podcast. So it's nice to see him succeed a little bit. And, I hope overall we're wrong too, because I want to see him succeed. But what a bizarre game. That was such a weird ending. I don't think I've ever seen a game end that way. And, people talking about it as if the Pelicans were tanking. Just look at the face that Alvin Gentry was making after he made that timeout and that massive mistake. Clearly they weren't taking that. That was not on purpose.
He has to make that face, Mike, because he's an actor who's being paid to tank. Clearly. Yeah,
the NBA is the WWE now. It's theme of our podcast.
Honestly, in a lot of ways it is.
So for those who missed it, just to go over how it ended, it was an overtime game. Booker tied the game with a layup. There was something like 16, 17 seconds on the clock. The Pelicans had a 5-second inbound violation where they tried to call a timeout and the refs missed it, I guess. They had no timeouts left, so no technical was called. But the possession changed, and the Suns had the possession. Devin Booker dribbled the ball down, passed it to an open Josh Jackson 3, which was the right shot for the Pelicans to give us. Although he's been shooting well, there's no guarantee, of course, that he'd make that. He sunk it in a great shot, and then Alvin Gentry called a timeout. This time, the refs could not miss that one. They had a technical foul. The game was tied. Booker sunk the free throw, and then the Suns got the ball back because it was a technical foul. And then Josh Jackson was fouled, I think, with 1.1 on the clock. He made the first, missed the second. On the rebound, the game ended. The Suns won. Bizarre ending, but a really fun ending in a way, because it was just there. I saw online that the live betting had the Pelicans winning. If you bet the Suns at that point with 16, 17 seconds left, it was plus 2,200 because of how unlikely it was for the Suns to win that game. But they shouldn't have won for many, many reasons. How'd you feel about it watching that game?
Well, I have to be honest and come clean. I watched a replay of the game. I couldn't watch it at the exact time. So unfortunately, a lot of the suspense was taken out of it for me. But that being said, I thought the Suns played a great game. Kelly Oubre and Devin Booker definitely dominate the discussion. Josh Jackson does deserve a lot of credit. He made the big shot at the end of the game. But Oubre and Booker combining for 72 points, absolutely huge. Also, guys like Dragan Bender played well in this game. Ray Spalding got his first kind of real taste of NBA action after DeAndre Ayton was ejected in the second half. And of course, Rashawn Holmes was out. So the Suns definitely playing a little bit small in that game, and a bunch of guys in their front court stepping up as well.
Yeah, and to say that the Suns shouldn't have won, no Rashawn Holmes, no Tyler Johnson, no TJ Warren, of course, and then Ayton was ejected. So there was a lot of players that were missing in this game. Ayton, of course, played really well in that game up to the point that he was ejected. Bizarre reason to be ejected, too. We don't really know what he said in either technical fouls, but the second one came with him on the bench, his first ejection, I believe, of his career. And I guess I was thinking a ref probably likes to be I want to be the ref that gives the number one overall pick his first ejection of his career. So maybe they were looking for it a little bit too much. But if you think about it, Tyler Johnson and TJ Warren, those are the two highest paid players on the team. You know, maybe they don't perform like that, but they are important pieces. Tyler Johnson was a big part of a lot of the wins coming into this game. But they played really well. You know, as you know, Anthony Davis doesn't play his normal minutes. So going into this game, the Suns did have a good chance to win just based on that alone. We did kind of get killed with Anthony Davis on the floor. He played, I think, 25 minutes is what he's capped out on. But they looked really good. Devin Booker, 40 points, 13 assists, 5 rebounds. James Harden-esque performance. He had 41 minutes. It's the second most free throw attempts in his career. He had 18 free throw attempts. The only game that had more free throw attempts than that was the game that he scored 70 points in. A really, really impressive performance from Devin Booker in this game, and really lately, right?
Oh, yeah, he's been awesome. I've got the stats right here. Last 8 games, honestly, you said it, it's Harden-esque. 30.5 points, 4.8 rebounds, 7.1 assists, 47% from the field, 35% from 3, 89% from the free throw line, and that would be a lot better if he didn't struggle from the free throw line in that one game this week. So yeah, maybe not Harden-esque this year, but maybe Harden-esque last year or the year before. That's how well Devin Booker has been playing as of late. And also, I think it was his 6th career game of 30 points and 10 assists, which just... Someone was pointing it out on Twitter. It might have been Max McCauley from the 7 Seconds or Less podcast, but I feel like the way a lot of people talk about Devin Booker right now, they talk about him as if he's already in his prime, that he's kind of already set in stone. Like we talk about this guy as if he's a 25, a 26-year-old, when the truth is he's still just 22. He's still breaking all of these records. He was recently the youngest player in NBA history to reach 500 threes, and nobody batted an eye. I think it was on the same day that LeBron broke some milestone, so nobody talked about it. But he's just continues to impress with everything he's done this season.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Devin Booker as compared to James Harden. We have a YouTube video about it, and for those of you who haven't seen it, make sure and check it out. But one of the big points we talked about were free throws attempted per game. And when we talked about the differences between the two guys, we talked about how Devin Booker needs to increase his free throw attempts per game in order to get as many easy points as James Harden does, who consistently leads the league in free throw attempts. And to that point, before the All-Star break, Devin Booker was averaging 6.1 free throw attempts per game, which was 16th in the NBA. Pretty good, especially for his age. But since the All-Star game, he's averaging 9.3, which is 3rd in the NBA. And that's only behind James Harden, of course, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, who just constantly attacks. So to see that improvement, I think, has been really impressive. I think you can attribute that to being healthy, for one, because you need that first step. You need to get around a guy. But also the way that he's been contorting his body, the way he's been trying to finish around the rim has a lot to do with it too. He's doing the James Harden hold your arms out really far. He's doing the sort of lift your arms up into the defender when they're on the hip. And those types of moves, a lot of people find them hard to watch, but they're important because you get a lot of free points, a lot of easy points that way. Have you noticed that and about the way Devin Booker's been playing lately?
Yeah, I've noticed it. I'm glad you mentioned the health, though. I think it's just important to stress that we're really looking at a Devin Booker right now who I believe is fully healthy. That first step is back. The quickness is back, and he's willing to drive in a way that maybe back in December he just wasn't, and I think that explained a lot of his struggles in those losing streaks as we were talking about him. But yeah, all of the bullshit Harden-esque moves, he's getting savvier, and he's starting to use those to his advantage as well. I'd like to see DeAndre Ayton start to learn some of those techniques as well, because if you can get Devin Booker to turn into James Harden and you can get DeAndre Ayton to turn into Joel Embiid, suddenly the Suns are getting 40 free throws attempts per game, and no one's going to stop them at that point.
Yeah, and I think I do want to give credit also to pace. I think the pace is important too, because when Devin Booker gets out in transition, he can get fouled consistently because it's hard. For one, he's really fast. He's able to finish, and his finishing has become really creative. I think over the last few weeks, he's getting a lot of finishes that we haven't really seen before. A lot of falling out of bounds and throwing it up towards the basket. Some interesting off the backboard finishes where he's spinning it just at the right angle. Kyrie Irving-esque finishes. Of course, Kyrie Irving came into the league as maybe the best layup guy of all time, so maybe not quite that good. but still very, very good. And I think pace has a lot to do with it too, because when he gets out there on fast breaks, the only way to stop him in a lot of cases is to foul him, and that's happening. That's happening a lot. But I do want to say he's averaging 28.8 points per game since the All-Star break, which is 5th in the NBA. So very, very impressive. And before that, 24.6. At this rate, he has potential to raise his overall points per game to 26 points per game. And he will be the first player to average that at 22 years old or younger since Kevin Durant. And before that, the names are very familiar. It's LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, Tracy McGrady, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, and Michael Jordan. And those are the only players to average 26 points per game at 22 years old or younger since Jordan. So that list is very, very impressive. So it's nice to be able to talk about Devin Booker like this again, because it didn't feel like he was healthy. We weren't able to sort of stats debate, as I call it, with Devin Booker to this point. And now I feel like we're able to do that again because he's really playing at that level and improving from where he was last year once again.
But are we sure he contributes to winning basketball? All those other guys on that list won games.
Well, maybe it's Kelly Oubre, right? Because he's been really good lately too, and it seems like that's been a big difference. We talked about Tyler Johnson was a big difference maker too, but he's missed the last few games. And Kelly Oubre has been really, really, really good lately. Have you been impressed with him?
Yeah, I mean, what am I going to say? No. Kelly Oubre now as a starter, 12 games. He started for 12 games, and he's officially averaging over 20 points per game as a starter. So, he's at that TJ Warren. The only difference between him and TJ Warren is that he's shooting 34% on threes in his last 12 games since he became a starter. And TJ is theoretically a 40% three-point shooter, but I don't know. Maybe some regression to the mean should be expected for TJ when he comes back and he's closer to like a 35% three-point shooter if you don't truly trust that 20% jump in 1 year, which just seems like such an outlier. If that's the case, Oubre right now, he's brought the energy, he's brought the swagger, he's brought the defense, and he's scoring as much as TJ. I really like TJ Warren. I'm just saying Oubre continues to apply the pressure and he continues to drive up his market value this summer too.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost hard to fully celebrate how good he's been because of that pending free agency coming up. But he is a restricted free agent. The market's weird. We don't really know what it's going to look like. If you kind of look at previous wings and what they've been on the market for, I think we can easily afford him. But we really don't know. All it takes with the restricted free agent, all it takes is one team, right? It's all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it with Tyler Johnson a few years ago. How do you think Tyler Johnson got $19 million in the first place? Or, another guy, how do you think Harrison Barnes? This is what scares me, is if Kelly Oubre keeps putting up 20 points, 6 rebounds on pretty good efficiency with some defense for another 10 games, sustains that basically so that he's played at that level for the entire post-All-Star break, he's kind of maybe at Harrison Barnes territory. Someone could throw him $25 million a year. It would be crazy. It would be crazy.
Yeah.
But with as many teams that have max contract space this summer, it's possible. At $20 million right now is definitely not out of the question. I feel like during the 17-game losing streak, Kelly wasn't playing that well. We were framing this as like a $12 to $14 million type contract. I think we're way past that now. 16, 18, 20, any of those are possible.
Yeah, and I think what's important is it's hard to compare this coming off season to previous off seasons. Now you can look at different wings and you can kind of gauge what he's going to make based off those wings. But this coming off season, there's a lot of teams that have cap space. This is something we've talked about before. Last week we talked about it with Rashawn Holmes. This week the conversation shifts over to Kelly Oubre. And when you have a lot of teams with cap space, what happens is they strike out. They aim at stars and they don't get those stars. And then they have all this cap space burning a hole in their pocket. And that's when they start writing offers to guys the same way Tyler Johnson got one. Now, there's not a lot of teams that are in similar scenarios as the Brooklyn Nets were in when they made that insane offer to Tyler Johnson. But who knows? I mean, at this point, it actually could be the Brooklyn Nets. They have a lot of cap space, enough for 2 max contracts, and maybe they write some sort of offer sheet to Kelly Oubre. So it's kind of unfortunate that we can't fully celebrate him. We have that impending free agency coming up, but I think the Suns are going to likely keep him. I think he's done enough to show that it might even make, now I hate to always talk about this, but it might even make TJ Warren expendable going into the summer as far as looking for trades. And I think with his shooting, he'd be an interesting target for a lot of teams, right?
Yeah, and he'd be the easiest way for James Jones to go out and get a veteran. I hate that we're talking about this too, because I've defended TJ a lot. I think he brings a lot to this team. We still suck at shooting overall, and he's our best shooter. So I don't like talking about him in that manner. But I get it's just the nature of the conversation always seems to naturally steer towards that.
Yeah, it is what it is, and TJ Warren has to be that guy that we look at just because the amount of wings, and the issue is we have to keep Mikal Bridges. It just makes sense. The reason you draft a guy that's 22 years old, a guy that has 4 years, is that you can have an older player on a rookie deal. You end up paying a lot less. It's nice to have a guy that's NBA ready and pay them rookie level salary. You got to keep a guy like that. It does not make sense to trade a guy like Mikal Bridges unless you're getting a star back. And then Kelly Oubre, he's just been so good. That leaves the odd man out. And we've talked about it before. Josh Jackson just doesn't have value on the trade market to really put him out there at this point. So it was nice to talk about a Pelicans victory in a bizarre game, but there were some other games that we should get into. Not as fun to talk about. First is the Utah loss. The Suns lost to Utah in a game I was at. It was a home game, 114-97. And, Gobert just kind of took it to us, right?
Yeah, Gobert took it to us, and that's exactly the main storyline. That long-armed fuck stole all of our defensive rebounds, and he was great. Rudy Gobert really proving his worth as just such a dominant, valuable center, gave DeAndre Ayton the business. And this is the type of game where I think a lot of people were getting down on DeAndre Ayton after the game for what he was saying about how he would give himself an F-, and that was the worst game he ever played. Just reminds me of how bad I would be if I somehow had the athletic ability to be a professional athlete at dealing with the media, because it feels like you have to be so precisely media trained that if you say anything that even resembles some sort of, not even controversy, it's not a controversial statement, but some people will just, especially after losses, find ways to be offended by anything. There were people talking about, DeAndre Ayton not having the right competitive spirit if he was down on himself after that game, when all he was saying was that, he wasn't going to get any sleep that night, that he was going to go and watch film the rest of the night. It was crazy, some of the theories that I saw people coming up with. But, DeAndre Ayton, down on himself after the game, I think he came back and responded well against Houston.
Yeah, I think there's no winning with a lot of these guys, because DeAndre Ayton, he had that interview, we talked about it a few episodes ago, where he said he doesn't have a defensive problem, and he'd say people kill him for saying he's not able to recognize his weaknesses. And then he has a game like this where he talks about it as his worst game yet, and he wants to improve, and people kill him for being honest about that. So I think there's, with the way the internet is and how many people are out there that are able to give opinions on this, you're just going to get killed no matter what. And I think a guy like DeAndre Ayton, he's been there before. He knows, and I don't think it's going to bother him if people kill him for that. One thing I will say is this was a boring game. It was not fun to watch. It was kind of brutal.
That's the Jazz, though.
Yeah, and we play them 2 more times, though. So we have 2 more Utah games. And in a sense, that's a good thing, because DeAndre Ayton has a chance to get out there and prove it again against, maybe the best big man defender the NBA has seen in a while in Rudy Gobert. He has a chance to really prove himself again. But as far as fans go, those are just not fun games to watch. It's like watching the old Spurs team with Tim Duncan, the defensive first teams. It's not that fun. It's just all defense, and then Donovan Mitchell taking control on offense. And for the Suns, it's a difficult matchup too, because with Favors and Gobert on the floor, those are just 2 massive guys, and with Favors stretching it out to the 3-point line, they hurt us on rebounds, they hurt us by spreading the floor, and they're good defensively because they're big. So not the most fun team to watch. One thing too, Rubio, who we've talked about as a potential free agent for the Suns, didn't look too impressive in that game, and maybe hasn't looked too impressive lately, right?
No, he hasn't. I've talked about Rubio before as being, I think Rubio's an interesting option because he's like the type of veteran that Goran Dragic could be. Like, Suns fans are in love with, actually, I shouldn't say that. Suns fans are somewhat happy with Goran Dragic, and I've heard some Suns fans be like, oh, we should go get Goran for a third stint. I think the advantage of Rubio has always been he's a couple of years younger than Goran, so you feel a little bit more comfortable giving him a 3 to 4 year contract and not having him instantly fall off in production the way that Trevor Rees and Tyson Chandler did. Now, that was on the condition that Rubio can keep up the shooting he did last year. I think he was like a 33% 3-point shooter. And I was like, okay, if he can at least give you that, if Igor truly did fix his shot form, then maybe it'd be okay. Evidently, his shot form is not fixed since the All-Star break. Ricky Rubio, do you want to guess what his shooting percentage is, Mike?
40.
30.
Oh my God.
30% from the field, 28% from three, 85% from the free throw line. And that's the thing. He's still averaging, this is in 10 games since the All-Star break, still giving you 6 assists and only 1.5 turnovers. Still, playing the passing lanes, getting some steals. He's, can get bumped by big men, absorb the contact and fight through screens. But he's not offensively capable, especially not to the point where you'd want to really give him a huge contract. So that option for the Suns this summer starts to make kind of less and less sense.
So if that does happen, you just kind of hope that Igor is the Rubio whisperer at
these,
that point.
I mean, these last 6 games, Milwaukee, 2 for 8. New Orleans, 1 for 8. New Orleans again, 3 for 12. Phoenix, 1 for 7. Minnesota, 1 for 7. Brooklyn, 2 for 13. And in 4 of these 6 games, he still posted a positive plus-minus because that's how good Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert have been since the All-Star break. We're talking about Devin Booker being good, but the truth is Donovan Mitchell, hate to say it, guys, but Donovan Mitchell and Bradley Beal are also playing so well. They're both playing out of their minds to the point where you can't even say like Booker is cementing himself as the second best shooting guard in the NBA behind Harden or anything because there are these other up-and-coming shooting guards who are just doing so well. But Rubio has been shitting the bed just really quietly.
Yeah, and I think not just those two guys with Gobert and Mitchell, but also Ingles. Ingles is actually averaging over 7 assists since the All-Star break as well. He's just an impressive player. He kind of can do everything. We talked about him as a comp for Mikal Bridges, but he's as one of the best shooters in the NBA and one of the most underrated playmakers in the NBA. I think he's just a guy that there's not really a lot of players that play like Joe Ingles. That's a really impressive team. They're going to be an interesting team in the playoffs as far as, they're playing really well right now. And if Rubio can put it together a little bit towards the end of the season, they're going to be a tough out for any team in the playoffs.
Mikal Bridges can do that. I have faith. 7 assists, not 7 assists.
Yeah.
Okay, not 7 assists. Mikal Bridges.
Well, after the All-Star break, not all season.
A little too loose with the ball. Mikal Bridges might be able to do 4 or 5 assists. Hey, I was looking up something the other day. Mikal Bridges continues to facilitate well. I think this is the 3rd or 4th straight episode that we've talked about this in that low usage role. He's got an assist to turnover ratio of 2.5 on the season. I was looking in the past for other Suns rookies, other wings specifically, that were in the same sort of role. Guys who came in, maybe they averaged like 2.5, 3 assists at most, but only around 1 turnover or so. So they have a similar assist to turnover ratio. And the only 2 guys I could find that really compared, Dan Marley and Joe Johnson. And I think that's a really good portrait of what Mikal Bridges might be able to come from the facilitating end. Maybe he's not going to average 7 assists a game. In fact, I'll tell you right now, 99.999% chance he won't. But as a secondary or even tertiary playmaker, I think he has the chance to be kind of like a Joe Johnson or a Dan Marley.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are great comps for him, and I hope that really comes to fruition. It's just like we talked about, he's just such a different player. He's nothing like those two guys.
Yeah, it's not good overall comps, just in the playmaking sense specifically.
Yeah. So another thing that happened in this game is Tyler Johnson did get injured. It doesn't seem like any sort of serious injury, but he was out for the subsequent 2 games with Houston and then the weird Pelicans game. But the Houston game was an interesting game because the Suns were kind of stayed with Houston until the 4th quarter. No Tyler Johnson, no TJ Warren, of course. No Chris Paul, too. Chris Paul rested in that game, rightfully so. James Harden kills us. They don't really need Chris Paul, and it's nice for James Harden, I think, to just go out and kill a team. He enjoys it. But what was interesting about this game to me is I didn't feel surprised at any point of the game that the Suns stayed with Houston. And that's when I started to realize maybe this is different this time, because previously, if like in the first half of the season, if the Suns were staying with Houston, a team as good as Houston, until the last few minutes of the game, it would have shocked me. But for this game, it kind of felt right. It just felt like they should have stayed with Houston throughout this game until James Harden just took over at the end of the game. It was kind of a fun game to watch, surprisingly, other than Rashawn Holmes getting injured in this game too. But what did you think about that Houston loss?
Well, I'm right there with you. I think it's the Oubre effect, honestly, because Josh Jackson played really well against New Orleans, but he didn't. Both him and Bridges kind of didn't play well against Houston. Everyone was getting on Josh for obvious reasons in that Houston game for the end of game mistake, but But Oubre he played super well in both games. And another guy, we really need to talk about Dragan Bender, actually.
Yeah.
Because he's not filling up the stat sheet. And you still look at him, he'll play 20 to 30 minutes and he'll only take 5 shots. And you look at him and he doesn't do anything remarkable. But he's increasingly solid in a way that he just wasn't before. I tweeted out earlier today, I mean, Dragan's actually he's attacking closeouts now. He's getting some of his shots unassisted so that he's not purely a catch and shoot guy. He's not quite as afraid to attack the basket, to go up there with it and not finish strong in the sense that he dunks, because that's sort of what I'm saying. He's not impressive when you look at him. And on defense, he's not impressive in the sense that he's getting these crazy blocks, but his positional defense is there. And you can sort of start to see him maybe make some progress towards becoming a capable NBA player. I know that's a really low bar to set. But that's kind of what we're talking about with he needed to make a lot of progress just to stay in the NBA. And I think based on his play over the past 10 games or so where he's been inserted into the starting lineup, we're starting to see that out of him.
Yeah, and I that actually leads nicely into a conversation I wanted to have. And that conversation is this real? So the Suns are 6-6 since the All-Star break. They're 500. They've won 50% of their games since the All-Star break. And my question is, how sustainable do you think this will be? And I'll talk a little bit about that. They're the third highest in pace since the All-Star break. That's something I think they can keep up. But even with these wins, they're still close to the bottom in three-point shooting, and they're still last in rebound percentage. And this includes Dragan Bender, who's shooting relatively well since the All-Star break. And something even more surprising, Josh Jackson is shooting 40% from three since the All-Star break, and 48% in March, and that's on about 3 attempts per game, which is really good and by far the best stretch of his career. So it's interesting that they're still winning, even though they're not hitting a lot of threes, even though Josh Jackson and Dragan Bender are shooting better. They're still not close to the top. I think the third in three-point shooting, three-point makes at least, in that stretch, and still last in rebound percentage. So it almost feels as if they're winning despite that, and a lot of it, I think, like you said, has to do with Kelly Oubre. It feels different to me, but when I look at the stats, it doesn't quite add up to me believing that this can be sustainable in the long run, at least going forward. I'm not really sure, but how do you feel?
The reason the Suns are winning these games, first of all, Oubre is playing out of his mind, but also Devin Booker, do you believe that he's a 30-8 guy consistently? I
think it's possible.
If the answer is yes, then that's why the Suns are winning. The Suns' entire offense has still been guided by Devin Booker. I mean, you see Jamal Crawford continues to come in games. We blow the lead. DeAnthony Melton, I loved his performance against New Orleans last night, but he continues to kind of be a disaster offensively. He's not good. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Josh Jackson has had his struggles.
Yeah.
Dragan Bender's a low usage guy. Mikal Bridges can't hit the broadside of a barn right now, as much as I praise him all the time for everything else that he does. So it's all on the shoulders of Booker and Oubre. If you believe that Booker is really that hard and light type of player, where he can put up 30 points and 8 assists for the rest of the season, then I think the Suns will continue to go 500 the rest of the season. But if Booker reverts back, teams are trapping him on every screen. Maybe he takes a wrong turn somewhere and gets a little bit injured, and suddenly he's back to 22, 23 points per game. The Suns aren't going to win games. Plain and simple.
I think I agree with that. We just got to keep him healthy, because I think that's the biggest difference with Devin Booker now and early in the season. The shooting hasn't really changed that much. He's still averaging pretty good efficiency, and he was pretty good as far as efficiency before, although he's a little bit better since the All-Star break. Not a huge change in three-point shooting, a little bit better. But I think you're right. I think that's the biggest change. I'm interested. I'm going to keep track of these team stats and see where we're at going towards the end of the season, because I think making a good impression for some free agents is important ending the season. And if they can be 500 post All-Star break, that would be a big difference. We got Chicago, Detroit, and Sacramento coming up. Chicago is an easily winnable game. They're not really trying to win. It'd be nice to see Devin Booker versus Zach LaVine, because people try to compare those guys a lot. And as ridiculous as I think it is, a lot of people are not watching the Suns, so it'll be nice to see them on the court together, and maybe people can make that comparison a little more realistic after seeing them play against each other. Chicago's at home, Detroit's at home, Sacramento's on the road. An interesting week. Detroit kind of kills us. Blake Griffin always kills us, and Sacramento's been very good this season, so we'll see.
I honestly don't remember what happened we lost to Chicago, but didn't Zach LaVine go off on us?
Yeah, I mean, Zach LaVine's good. He's a good player.
I gotta look it up. He had 29 and 6 on 50% shooting. I dare I say that's a Booker-esque performance.
I mean, you're saying that right after he had 40, 13, and 5.
Oh, I know. I know what you mean. Levine isn't the playmaker that Booker is. That's what separates them right now. But when the Suns...
And the playmaking is a huge
I know,
difference.
but when the Suns were in the middle of a 17-game losing streak, it's not the craziest comparison in the world. I mean, Booker's overall stats are great, but the defense hasn't quite been there enough to truly elevate him into the tier of other two-way superstars. That's all I'm saying. I definitely think Devin Booker is a lot better than Zach LaVine. Nobody crucify me for that.
Yeah.
I just think, hey, it might be a battle coming in there. I mean, we're still the Suns. We got 3 games coming up: Chicago, Detroit, Sacramento, as you said. And with the way we're playing right now, they could win all 3 of those games. But at the end of the day, you're still the Suns. You got to take every opponent seriously, because anyone can come in and just wreck you on any night.
All I know is if Kelly Oubre shows up with a headband on, it's over. It's over. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're actually going to get deeper into the draft, I think, than we have so far. We have a draft analyst, Richard Stayman, who covers the draft for the Mavs, coming on to talk about maybe your brackets a little bit and what to look forward to in this tournament that's coming up. So March Madness is here, and Richard is going to guide us through it. So we'll be right back.
Josh MF Jackson, man. Without him, we wouldn't be here right now. He's also shooting 50% in the month of March. People don't know that, so they better put some respect on his name.
Joining us on the podcast is Richard Stayman, a.k.a. Mavs Draft on Twitter, a.k.a. Reddit user RPS215, and the Timeline's official draft analyst, because the Mavs may not have a pick this year. Richard, how are you doing?
That's cold. I'm hurt. I'm great, though. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're hurting you. I just want to say, the Mavs are 2-8 in the last 10 games, and the Suns are 6-4. So I just wanted to point that out.
That doesn't hurt me. That's what I want.
You know what? Honestly, you can give them a hard time, but the Mavs this year have 2 rookies who are playing basically worth 2 years worth of draft picks right there. I mean, Jalen Brunson has been amazing recently. I know everyone talks about Luka Doncic, but shout out to Jalen Brunson. Richard, have you been impressed with the play of both of your rookies recently? I assume you have been.
Recently, no, because Luka has forgotten exactly just how to shoot a free throw. No, I'm just kidding. He's still great though. I mean, even when he's down, he's still putting up great numbers. I was huge on Jalen Brunson coming out of the draft. He was my highest ranked 15th overall player. I was huge on him, and I was ecstatic that the Mavs got him at 33. I thought that was an absolute steal, and he's lived up to it. And as much as it's really unfortunate that JJ Barea went down with that Achilles injury, it's been huge for Brunson. And people thought that Yogi Ferrell was going to be the Mavs' future JJ Barea, but we let him walk, and now he's in Sacramento. But really, it's Brunson. Brunson's going to be that kind of guy who maybe could win Player of the Week like JJ Barea. He's going to be on an all-rookie team, and I'm really excited about him.
Just to throw out the stats, for the last 12 games, Brunson's averaging 16 points, 3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, only 2 turnovers, 54% shooting from the field, 40% from 3, and 93% from the free throw line. That's really good for a rookie. That's like, when Suns fans were getting excited about like Tyler Ulis blowing up at the beginning of his rookie season, except like actually legitimate, actual legitimate efficiency happening right now. So yeah, definitely some stuff for you guys to be excited about there.
Yeah, and they haven't been empty either. He's been going off on the last few games that have all been close. Like, they're not empty stats at all.
So what's going on with Luka? Is it just because he's fat?
It's definitely fatigue. If it has fat in it, like, you can't spell fatigue without fat. So I'm going to go with that.
All right. We brought you on to talk about the draft, but just quickly, I'm going to read off Luka Doncic's basketball reference nicknames, which I assume you haven't seen before. I want you to tell me if you've ever heard any of these uttered in real life, and if you want to. Are you ready?
No, absolutely not.
Matador, Cool Hand, The Don, Swaggy L,
What?
and Wonder Boy. And
Okay.
I don't know. They did this with Mikal Bridges too. I remember is another guy who's ridiculous nicknames on Basketball Reference. I have no idea where they pull these from. I just wanted to know, since we have an actual Mavs fan on the podcast, if you have any idea where those came from.
I think the Matador came, or El Matador, whatever, that came from when he was in Spain. Swaggy L, I hope to God never ever reaches anyone ever in the NBA. So maybe if we could bury this podcast and never release it, just for that one incident, that'd be great. The others I've heard a little bit. The Dawn is really lame, but Cool Hand, Mark Followill loves that one. Wonder Boy that's a pretty popular one. I'd say that one's the most popular. Online, people use the Matador or El Matador or whatever. They use that the most, and I cringe every time.
Wonder Boy is almost sarcastic, though, I think, in a way. Like, that one can be used positively or negatively. It can be, NBA Twitter talking about Wonder Boy again, used in, like, a derisive tone.
Yeah, it sounds very condescending. I do not disagree with that at all. I like calling him Luka. Hot take, but, I like calling him Luka Doncic.
Yeah, when guys have good names, they don't need nicknames. Like nobody ever made up a nickname for Kobe Bryant that stuck. I mean, other than the one he made up for himself. But Kobe Bryant is a good name. Luka Doncic is a good name. You don't really need a nickname at that point. But like Sam said, we did bring you on to talk about the draft. So let's get to that. So just so everyone knows, I'm hoping to have Richard on for the next few weeks so we can get into the draft a little bit more. But as we know, the brackets are out. It's that time of year. It's March Madness. So everyone's going to be talking about college players and sort of what this will lead as far as the NBA draft and where we're going in the future. So first question is obvious. From your perspective, you cover the draft. Is the hype around Zion warranted in your opinion? And attached to that, is there any bust potential at all for Zion?
It's hard to say yes to that, just because you see guys like Ben Simmons, who everyone coming out of LSU was concerned about how he doesn't have a jump shot whatsoever and how that would hold him back. But the thing is, if you're talented enough, you don't need a jump shot. Yeah, it gives you the jump from great to elite, but Zion is going to be great regardless. I've been looking for a flaw outside of his jump shot. I can't find one. So I'm all in on him. There's no doubt he's the number one pick. I do think people are a little bit carried away. I think he's going to be a great player, like a future all-star, no doubt. But I've seen a lot of people say he's the best prospect coming out of the draft since LeBron, which I think that's a little bit carried away. But he's really good. I mean, in my opinion, he's the best prospect since Simmons. I absolutely love him.
Does that mean you would take him over Doncic if you could choose one or the other for the next 7 or 8 years? Yeah.
Nope.
You wouldn't?
Yeah. I like going with what I know. And just having Luka, like seeing him, he's going to win Rookie of the Year, or at least should. He's definitely going to keep getting better. I just like sticking with the guy who's in the NBA, so I'm a little bit biased on that and the Mavs thing.
Do you consider him in a tier by himself? Is there a chance that anyone else is a better player than him in the NBA?
Wow, that is
in this draft.
That's a little bit difficult. I think Ja Morant is close. I think that's the smallest gap at the top is Zion to Ja. I think that's actually way closer than people realize. But other than that, there's a huge drop off after those two. I don't think it's like 1A, 1B. I think it's a clear 1 and 2, but they're not that far off.
So building off of that, obviously you're saying that Ja Morant is pretty much, or should be pretty much guaranteed to be the number 2 pick in this draft, because after Zion, the best star potential is Ja Morant. And there's other guys that are in play for that second pick if you look around the internet, but it's been hard for me personally to watch a lot of Ja Morant. He's not on TV a lot. That's really the main reason. So I'm searching out these YouTube videos. I'm trying to find highlights, and you know how highlights can sort of only show the best parts of the game. So I'm not really sure about Ja Morant going into this, but in your opinion, he's pretty much the guaranteed number 2 pick?
Yeah, I can't see a way he goes number 1. I know some people were saying like in December and January that maybe he could, but I don't see it. And somehow maybe he falls to 3 just because some team doesn't need a point guard. But I really don't see that. I think he's a guy who fits in just about anywhere. He plays like Russell Westbrook, or actually I think he plays closer to John Wall. And I think you can make that fit just about anywhere.
How does it fit with Devin Booker specifically? Just because I like Ja Morant a lot, for the record, but just sort of playing devil's advocate, where you constantly hear people talk about defense and off-ball tendencies, and clearly those are the weaknesses of Devin Booker as well. How do you think that backcourt would mesh together?
So defensively, I don't think it would be very positive. That's not a huge concern to me, though, because I'm not huge on. I think defense individually is overrated. I think team wise, matters a lot more. So I'm not really concerned about the defensive fit, but offensively they would feed off each other so perfectly. With Booker's evolution as a playmaker and then having a full-time playmaker, I think it makes Booker's secondary playmaking ability just 10 times better. And obviously Morant can get to the basket, no problem, which gives Booker spot-up opportunities, Bridges spot-up opportunities. There's a lot. They feed off each other perfectly,
Adding to that, how do you feel about the way Zion would fit next to DeAndre Ayton? So some people have expressed concerns on that because there's not a lot of shooting in that front court. But, Zion, to me, just because of his overall star potential, it doesn't matter. And the fact that DeAndre Ayton could eventually get out to that three-point line, I think it would be a good fit. But how do you feel, from your draft perspective, about those two guys next to each other?
I think it's the perfect fit. I had this thought that, like, if you had to, rank where Zion, why did I say this? I'm sorry, Zion would land, what team would be the best fit? Phoenix, no doubt, number one for me, just because I think it takes away Aiden's weaknesses. It really limits those. I think it reduces just the responsibility of defense for Aiden, which is obviously something he struggled with. I think just kind of having him specialize either at the rim or you can even just have him on the perimeter. You really don't have to rely on him to stop all the baskets. And I think that fits really well defensively, most importantly, but even offensively, having two aerial threats like Zion and Aiden is just really unmatched, especially because I think both guys will be able to space it at least to the elbow. Aiden's range can easily go to 3-point. I'm not worried about that. But the offensive fit might be a little bit awkward, but I think talent fits together, so it really doesn't concern me.
Look, I feel like overall everyone's talked about Zion and Ja Morant a lot, and I think most people will have some level of exposure to them at this point, but then it kind of becomes a drop-off after them. RJ Barrett gets a lot of coverage too. Cam Reddish gets a decent amount. When we talk about the pool of players who come after and frame it as a discussion specifically related to the Suns, where it's, if you drop down to the 4th overall pick or lower, do you trade the pick? Richard, what are your opinions on that? How many star potential players are there truly in that 4 to 10 range, in your opinion? And especially because so many of them are wings and not point guards or power forwards, which are the Suns' positions of need, would you really consider trading that pick if you found yourself moving down?
I said the same. I'll answer this with the exact same way I answer it when people ask that about the Mavs. I say yes. I just don't trust anyone from 3 to 10 whatsoever. I really trust Zion and Ja. I think those two are absolutely no question stars. But after that, I mean, it is going to be massively hit or miss. So I'd say, yeah, if you can trade out of that, pick up some assets. Maybe you find someone at 7 or 8 that you could even find as just a super role player, like a Draymond type, like Brandon Clark. He would be really good. Obviously, actually, you could even go for Darius Garland at point guard. He's been out all year, but he wouldn't be a bad solution either. I have him in my top 10. So if he's there, I mean, you could always trade back for him if you don't get Ja.
Yeah, I mean, the way I feel about it is basically, I think you need to think about it like this. The Suns, I know they always say best player available, just take the best player available, don't worry about fit. But the Suns have so many wings on the team right now, it's sort of a matter of minutes distribution. So when you get to that whole tier of players, you've got guys who are putting in slightly more polished seasons, like a Jarrett Culver, and then you've got guys putting in less, or DeAndre Hunter, I think, also falls into that category, and then guys who are a little bit less polished, Kevin Porter Jr., Keldon Johnson, maybe Romeo Langford. And when you talk about that tier, and you talk about those guys and envisioning them coming in and competing with TJ Warren and Kelly Oubre Jr. and Mikal Bridges and Josh Jackson, how many of those guys do you really think actually have the potential to be better than maybe 2 of all of those wings within 3 to 4 years? Because realistically, if you're going to use a top 4, top 5 pick on a player, you don't want it to be 3 to 4 years from now and still have that player sitting on the bench behind Kelly Oubre and Mikal Bridges. You want to be at least have some degree of faith that they're going to become a starting caliber player. So I guess my question is, how many of those guys do you really think can get better, at least than players like Bridges and Oubre by their prime?
I don't think any of the guys. I mean, I'm really high on Bridges, so I don't think anyone that you can draft that's not Zion, RJ, or Ja are going to be better than Bridges. But I think you're going to be able to get guys that are better than the other 3. For example, I like DeAndre Hunter a lot. I don't know if he's going to get a ton better from where he is now, but he's an elite 3-and-D prospect coming out of college. I don't know how many of those guys Phoenix needs necessarily. It's the only issue. But there's just a couple that I could see. Keldon Johnson maybe as well. I'm really high on Sekou. I can't say his last name, Doumbouya, I think. A lot of people aren't as high on him. He's a really hit-or-miss guy.
I'm so scared of foreign bigs now. Dragon has scarred me for life.
Well, he's a small forward, if that makes you feel any better. But no, I don't know. Like, he has all the tools in the world. He's really big. He has a jump shot. Kind of putting it together is an issue. But Keldon Johnson's a really good slasher. He just has to get his jump shot together. If he can do that, I'd say Keldon could be. I really think he could be the best of them all. He has the highest ceiling of those 3. So that would be, if you're swinging for the fences, go Keldon Johnson at like 8 or 9.
So before the draft, or before the season started, before the college season started, the number 1 pick, there was a debate about the number 1 pick. Now it seems very clear that Zion is the number 1 pick. Everyone is sort of in agreement that it goes to Zion. But before the season began, there was some debate as to whether or not it should be RJ Barrett. Mm-hmm. And as the season has gone on, RJ Barrett's stock has dropped a little bit, and most people are projecting him around that 3rd pick at this point, which is a place that the Suns could actually end up picking at this point. So my question to you, with RJ Barrett and the way his jump shot has been sort of iffy at best, is there a chance that he's just Josh Jackson? That's my fear.
I don't think they're entirely similar. Josh Jackson, I'm looking at my old scouting report. I just pulled that up. I put that his jump shot may be his fatal flaw. You can kind of say the same thing about RJ, but RJ has a lot better form. I hated Josh Jackson's jump shot coming out of college, especially because I think he had the fro at the time too. And being a Magic fan, I was a little bit scarred by that with Elfrid Payton as well. So I was really down on that. I don't think RJ is going to be a bad shooter. I just don't think he'll really be a good shooter, which I don't know if you can necessarily say the same about Josh Jackson. I think he's kind of doomed to be a bad shooter. And I think RJ's got a lot more playmaking skills than Josh Jackson did, at least coming out of college.
I think that's fair. It's just a little worrisome. I'm scarred. Just as Sam's talked about being scarred with Dragan Bender and being afraid, I'm a little worried about the guys that are wing players with playmaking potential, because that's how Josh Jackson was sold to me, and we haven't really seen it in the NBA yet. And, to be fair, being on a team with Zion, he hasn't exactly been able to fully take control of the offense. When Zion was out, I was a little more impressed with RJ Barrett than when they played together. So there's a chance that he could be really good. And I do think that if we drop below, if we're not taking Zion and we're not taking Ja, I think there's a strong chance that we trade that pick at this point. Now, today is Selection Sunday. We've seen a lot of teams get picked into their the brackets are out. Let's just say that. And out of these guys in the top 10, that the Suns are likely picking 1 to 6 at this point. Who do you think could raise their draft stock the most in this tournament?
Of the top 10 guys?
Or borderline top 10 as well.
Okay. I was going to say, because out of my top 10, I have only 6 guys in the tournament. So that's kind of where this draft is for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I don't have Cam Reddish up there. There's a few others. But I really think if there's someone that could really get into the top 10, it's Kobe White from North Carolina. He's been on that bubble all year. And if he guides North Carolina to the Elite Eight, Final Four, you're going to see him really rise. I have my concerns about him. Like, he has a little bit of a push shot, which very few guards have made work. But hey, he's got a really sick afro too. So that's points for me. He's skyrocketing up there on my board because of that.
Triggered.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, but
Triggered.
the other guy I could see, I have DeAndre Hunter at number 5 on my board. I could see people getting closer to that if he just goes off in the tournament. Virginia has really, really good defense already. So having DeAndre Hunter just be an anchor, if they say go to the Final Four, go to the championship game, DeAndre Hunter will definitely go from what seems to be around number 8 consensus to probably top 5.
Just a question about DeAndre Hunter. I'm going to ask you what everyone is asking about him. Virginia plays a more conservative defense, so he's a switchable defender. That's what he's being projected as. Got a good amount of length, good measurables, but doesn't literally get the steal and block numbers that you might want to see, particularly the steals. Not sure if he has quite the athleticism for the blocks, but you plug him into a system like Phoenix, where Phoenix has been leading the NBA in deflections this season and have been very risky with guys like DeAnthony Melton, Mikal Bridges, Josh Jackson all playing the passing lanes. What do you think that looks like? And how will DeAndre Hunter be able to transition to that sort of NBA-style defense? Will he start going for more flashy plays, or is he just going to be a very solid fundamental defender for his career?
I think it's closer to the fundamental side. I know Virginia doesn't. They want their guys just to stay on their man and do nothing else. Like you said, they're very conservative. That was pretty spot on. But he's got a really long arms. He has a great frame. He's already really strong. I think he's going to be forcing turnovers. He may just not be collecting those turnovers. So he may not be getting the steals, but he might be the driving force for a steal. That's the kind of defender he is.
Last question for me. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to see Luka Doncic and Porzingis next season?
On a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
I'd say 15. I'm real excited. I mean, it's Nash and Dirk. Like, it's the closest thing we've had in Dallas to that. So it's hard not to be excited.
How good do you think they could be realistically?
The Mavs or just those
next
two?
Season? The Mavs next season.
Well, I had them as a 41-win team this year. I'd say they're going to get close to 50 wins. I know their bench will always be good as long as Carlisle's here, so that's not a worry. I mean, I think next year could be another year like, what was it, when Dallas, Phoenix, and Memphis were fighting for that 8 seed. Was it 2013 or 2014?
2014.
2014,
right?
Yeah, that's right, because Mavs missed in 2013. So, in 2014, 50 wins barely got you to the playoffs. I could see that next year. Just based on how the West is kind of going this year, I think you're going to see an explosion from a lot of teams. But I think the Mavs are a 45, 50 win team, somewhere in that range, barring health. Don't hold me to this if everyone gets injured, because I know people do that.
Sam, you got anything else for Richard?
Yeah, just to sort of conclude the draft discussion. Thank you, Richard. I'm afraid we couldn't, go into some of these prospects more in depth, but we're going to have more conversations in the future. You mentioned Kobe White, who I really like. You mentioned Brandon Clark, who I really, really like. And I guess when talking about those guys, again, if you were in the Suns' position, rather than drafting one of the risky wings in around the 5th or 6th spot, do you go for a guy like Kobe White, Brandon Clark, Grant Williams, PJ Washington, by trading down into the 10 to 20 range and trying to grab a guy like that? Maybe just a guy who's a little bit more of an older veteran college player, a safer bet, and not trade out of the draft entirely for Phoenix, but we could maybe steer the conversation more towards you trade down in the draft, you collect assets, try to get maybe some sort of veteran NBA player, and then pair them with a little bit of a lower rookie. Does that kind of strategy make sense for Phoenix as we will be talking about the draft more for the next few months?
I think it definitely comes from the perspective. If you're coming from a perspective where you want, if you think the Suns are just one more year of tanking away from really hitting their upside, then yeah, definitely trade out as much as you can, because I don't see the upside. I don't think there's anyone with freak upside in this class. Even 2013, which is a pretty weak class, had their 2 stars well beyond number 10. And I think 2013 and this draft class are eerily similar to me. I think there's a little bit more star power at the top. There is more star power, but other than that, there's really not a ton different from me. So I'd say if you can try and get into 2020 draft, that one's going to be really strong. Get into that one. So if you can get assets and get a guy who's going to be a solid core piece that you can have in the rotation every game and not have to worry about him ever falling out of the league, yeah, take that route. Because number 10, 8, 10, I think is the ideal range to do that for someone like DeAndre Hunter. You said Brandon Clark, someone like that.
Richard Stayman, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure everyone follow him at Mavs Draft. I know his focus is covering the draft for the Mavericks, but he covers every player. Do you have anything else you would like to promote, Richard?
That's it for right now. I really appreciate that.
No problem. Looking forward to having you on. As this tournament goes on, we can talk more, maybe get a little deeper into the draft and cover, even some second round picks for the Suns, focused on the Suns. But, thank you so much for joining us.
Can I just say one last thing?
Of course.
I'm proud to own the 3-point zone.
God. Rubbing off on you.
I had to get that on there. I'm sorry. Thank you for having me, though.
You're banned. You're never coming back. Thank you.
Well, who told you to sleep with her, George?
It's not my fault. I wasn't going to do anything until you got her all juiced up with your story about having the affair with the matador.
Oh, gosh, none of this would never happen if you hadn't said God bless you.
Oh, don't start with that.
Hold it, people. Matador? What matador?
I told this couple she had an affair with a matador.
A matador. Well. Uno momento, por favor.
You just wrapped up another episode of The Timeline. I love this podcast. And if you're like me, you want as much Suns content as possible. That's why I listen to The Timeline every week. So if you want to go ahead and hear some more Phoenix Suns content, go ahead and listen to The Solar Panel, a Phoenix Suns show. We are available on Spotify, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Google Play. Anywhere that you listen to podcasts, go ahead and check out The Solar Panel, a Phoenix Suns show.
For the ones standing guard, for the eagle-eyed, for the knights in shining armor, and for all those who support them. We are Grainger, your experienced safety partner, offering supplies and solutions for every industry, committed to helping keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, clickgrainger.com/safety, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.